this is the Deathy Kit demo, and the kit itself isn't actually meant to mimic any death drum sound, but the music was death inspired, and it was the kit that I used for writing the demo, and then that's why the preset is called Deathy Kit. Okay, so first up, we'll take a look at the guitars. I'm going to turn off all the processing, and we can look at and listen to the original guitar tone in just a single guitar in mono. So I'm just going to loop this bit of riff here. Cool, so it's the 5150. These are the settings. That's the max and settings, pretty standard for me. And the cab, using cab 5 top right. So that is the Marshall cab from my impulse response pack. And yeah, just using that one singular file. So that is the main left guitar track. I don't know if, so these quieter tracks, I don't know if it's the same tone or something else. No, it is a rectifier, so let's have a listen to that in mono. Instantly you can hear it's got a boxier mid-range to it. So these are the maxing settings. A little bit more push from the pedal for this amp. I'm on modern mode here. Gains there. Then we've got a blend here. So this is cab 2. This is bottom right speaker in cab 2. So I think that is that the Cycle of Suffering speaker? Or is that, yeah, no, I think it is. So I think that's the 2005 speaker that I used on Cycle of Suffering. So that is the SM57, which we're using most of, and then there's a bit of a 421 mic blended in. So all 4 tracks together. Let's check out the processing. So obviously, first up, there's a ton of like woomphy low end on the palm mute, so tackling that with the C4. Then the first EQ is usually my sort of subtractive EQ, trying to find problematic areas that might stick out or whistle. So I'm removing a ton of the woomphy low end, but it's also dynamic as well, so it's doing the same sort of job as the C4. And I think I might go in and boost more low end after this. So yeah, just some usual whistly frequencies removed. Could probably get a little wider on that one. 4.7. And then usually between 6 and 7K, I just end up always doing this kind of thing. I just hate that area. And then going to be brightening it up with the SSL style one, so boosting at 14K by 2.6. And then boosting 3.2. By 4K. This area, as you may have seen in previous videos, doesn't necessarily line up with the values on this pot. But this broadly kind of removing some of that cardboardy mid-range. Cool. And then Soothe plugin, just taming harshness in the high end. And then this EQ doing more subtractive stuff after the fact. So doing some low and high pass filtering. Taking out a lot more low end than I do normally, because I went for a thick bass tone for this one with quite a lot of low end. So taking out a bunch of mid-range here. And just taming anything in this area. This area I kind of like to just sort of flatten out, so nothing here is going to be higher than anything around 3K, which is a really problematic area, but it's really hard to get the balance right to make sure nothing's too harsh. And then, yeah, even my low pass is a bit more extreme than I normally go. And yeah, even more EQ that I added at the end. So, yeah, don't be afraid to completely over EQ. I think I just went crazy at the very end when finessing the mix. So, same sort of stuff, just really trying to balance things out. And it's not too uncommon for me to just load up EQ upon EQ upon EQ. And sometimes if I get that far, if I get to the stage where I add one more EQ, I'll probably just remove them all and start again. But anyway, that's what we did for guitars. For bass, I've used Umansky bass. Humanized position there to try and get more of the higher frets used, so it's a bit fatter sounding. Just using the DI off that. And then got the CLA compressor, dark gloss plugin. Bit of the DI tone blended in. Not too overly distorted for that tone. This area is really like growly and pokes its head out of the mix, which I quite like. Limiting it. Just a few dB and then one final EQ. Just doing any more sort of finessing and taming. Yeah, there's quite a lot going on in this area. That can get really out of hand really quickly. So for the drums, as I said, it's the Deathy Kit preset. I may have ever so slightly tweaked it, so I can load it up now and we can have a look and see if it definitely is exactly the same as the preset itself. The snare is the lower of the three bell brass tunings. It's not a particularly low tuned snare, it's just the lowest of the three. Using a ton of the overhead mic, which isn't super loud, but you just get a bit more of that kind of like pop sound to the snare, which I really like. Just going to solo that. And a fair bit of the room mic still in there. I'm adding a bit more sustain, taking off a little bit of attack from the snare top close mic. Well, I say top, it's the close mic is snare, top and bottom combined into a pre-mixed process sound. Pitch, I think I've barely done anything, just down ever so slightly. Got reverb up about 41% on the snare, none on the kick. The kick is the Q 24-inch. Tilt the EQ 6% to the left, that's barely doing anything. And I may have taken a bit of the high end off the ride and changed some of the values of the cymbals at the last minute. I might have brought down some of the room mics a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how it sounds. And if you go into the groove section, if you go on Ultimate Heavy Drums, Core Patterns, this is the progressive metal drum track. So you will have this if you have Ultimate Heavy Drums. Cool, so that is the mix walkthrough.